Hello and welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us for our third in a series of 6 winemaker panel discussions hosted by the Consorzio of Franciacorta this month of June as part of our first Digital Franciacorta Festival. My name is Maymata Aliyah. I am the Educational Ambassador for Franciacorta here in New York, and I will be moderating this and all future discussions. By way of a brief introduction for anyone who may be joining us today for the first time or who may not be familiar with Franciacorta, Franciacorta is a sparkling wine that is produced in the region of Lombardia in northern Italy. The Franciacorta production zone is a rather compact amphitheater-shaped wine region that sits at the southern border of Lake Iseo, the sixth largest lake in Italy. And the proximity of this lake moderates the surrounding area and provides an ideal climate for growing grapes for the production of sparkling wine. Today's discussion will be about Franciacorta Satèn, a wine that is unique to the Franciacorta region. It is a wine that I'm personally very, very fond of and excited to share with our audience today. And to help us better understand Satèn, we are joined by 3 producers from the region, and I will be introducing them as they appear on my screen. So starting from the left, we are joined by Gregorio Villa from Santa Lucia. Gregorio is a trained enologist and the current owner of Santa Lucia, a family winery that was founded by his parents, Pierluigi and Ardenia, in the late 1990s. His father, Pierluigi, was inspired to establish his own winery after many years of experience working as a consultant and researcher with other wineries. So, hi, Gregorio. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, May.
Next, we have Gianluca Cittadini from La Montina Winery. Gianluca is a sales director of La Montina Franciacorta, a historic winery of the Bosa family, which today is in the hands of cousins Michele and Daniele Bosa. Gianluca has a vast range of managerial experience in the world of wine, gained both from time spent in the United States, in my hometown of New York, as well as his native Italy. And last but certainly not least, we have Camilla Alberti from Castelvedere. Since 2003, Camilla has been the managing director at Castelvedere, a winery founded by her grandfather, Renato Alberti, in 1975. Her responsibilities include administration and promotion of the winery in Italy and abroad, with a particular emphasis on hospitality and tourism, both of which are areas of passion for Camilla. And fittingly, Camilla is also the current president of the Strada del Franciacorta, or the Franciacorta Wine Road. So thank you for joining me, panelists. Thank you, audience, for joining us. And I'm going to start our discussion today by posing my first question to you, Camilla. As I've mentioned, today's discussion is about Satèn. So help us understand by describing what is Franciacorta Satèn.
Hey, hello, everybody. Well, Franciacorta Satèn is a wine characterized by a bright, golden yellow color, a small quantity of tiny little bubbles, a long-lasting, creamy, soft and delicate taste in mouth, and a strong characteristic perfume of the best Chardonnay grapes. It has also a distinct fragrance of ripe fruit, with also delicate notes of white flowers, dried fruit such as almond and hazelnut. And its pleasant flavor and freshness harmonize with an innate softness that recalls the delicate sensation of silk.
Nice, thank you. You've made me very thirsty, and it's only noon here. So what is the inspiration behind the name Satèn? What is it? Where is it coming from?
Well, actually, Satèn is a fantasy name. It's a fantasy word invented just here in Franciacorta with a strong connection with the word seta, which means silk, actually, in English. What is silk? Silk is the most elegant, charming, but at the same time strong and resistant fabric that we have. And at the same time, Satèn is a wine that has that has this special characteristic of smoothness and softness as well, such as this precious fabric. Satèn is a wine that, in my opinion, was born to emphasize the power of Chardonnay and to introduce wine lovers to a sparkling wine that is never too aggressive in mouth, but it is extremely balanced, and it gives the feeling of a gentle touch, such as a scarf made of silk, for example, and that's why the name Satèn.
Beautiful, thank you. And so, is it always a dry style?
Yes, it is. The softness of the taste is a selection of a careful of the base wines with a low bottle pressure of less than 5 atmosphere. That's why we have this smoothness, but it must be a dry wine, so it is not a matter of sugar. We are not allowed to add more sugar than in a normal brut in the Satèn, because the smoothness is given by this tiny quantity of bubbles and of the low pressure. So that is maximum 12 grams of sugar per liter in the liqueur d'expédition at the dégorgement. So it is absolutely a dry wine.
Okay, great. Lovely. So I love the connection between the name Satèn, which definitely, to me, now that you're talking about silk and satin, really correlates to the texture of the wine. Really nice. All right, so thank you, Camilla. My next questions are for you, Gianluca. When did Satèn become a legal category in Franciacorta? Has it always been produced there, or when did it become a term?
Yeah, so actually, Satèn is a category, a typology of Franciacorta since the beginning of the DOCG. The Franciacorta DOCG in general has been recognized in 1995, and I like to underline that Franciacorta as a DOCG was the first one sparkling wine recognized as DOCG level in Italy. And that's important to remind. So we are using Satèn since the beginning of the rules of all the area, the production area. But we were also making a Satèn style before that, even if we were not allowed, we were not using this name because we were using the general name for this style, the French name, which is Crémant. But after a little bit of dispute between the European Union and the Franciacorta production, the Italian production of Crémant, and it has been forbidden for us to use the name Crémant. And so Franciacorta, as Camilla was saying, decided to study, to find a new fantasy, but not just a fantasy name, a real brand for a style of wine. And we decided to go for this beautiful name, Satèn, which is recalling the French name, which is again Satèn, and also the English name, which is again Satèn for the silk fabric, say that. So.
Gotcha. Okay, super interesting. So Camilla mentioned that the wine will always be a little bit lower pressure, that will always be brut. What grape varieties are permitted in the production of Satèn? Are all the grapes permitted, or?
No, actually, that's another peculiarity of the Satèn typology of Franciacorta, because Satèn it's a real blanc de blanc. So it's a wine made just with white grape, and in particular, it's made mostly by Chardonnay, and it's allowed a maximum of 50% of Pinot White. So the two grapes are making the Satèn style. It's a true blanc de blanc wine.
Okay. Why limited only to the white varieties?
But also to differentiate the Satèn category from the other. Another important grape in Franciacorta, it's used for all the typology of Franciacorta, it's Pinot Noir. So to have just a Blanc de Blanc wine, we decided to go just for the two varietals that we are using that are coming from white berries. So Chardonnay and Pinot White.
Makes sense. Okay, so that's another distinguishing characteristic is the lower pressure, the brut, and also that it's always a Blanc de Blanc. Yeah. Great. All right, thank you. So that's actually going to lead me to my next question, which is for Gregorio. So I know Camilla also mentioned that it tends to be a high percentage of Chardonnay, but Gianluca, you mentioned you can also use Pinot Bianco or Pinot White, as you mentioned. But I know there's a limit on the use of Pinot Bianco in the wines in general. Why do you have a limit on the use of Pinot Bianco and Satèn, Gregorio? What's your theory on that?
Yes, we have a maximum percentage of 50% of Pinot Bianco we can use in the Satèn. And there's many reasons for that. The first of all is the aging potential, which is lower for the Pinot Bianco instead of the Chardonnay. Chardonnay is the queen variety or king variety in Franciacorta. And so the aging potential is the first thing. But another important thing is that the availability of Pinot Bianco is very lower respect to the Chardonnay. In Franciacorta, we have more or less 3,000 hectares of vineyards, and only, I think, we do not reach the 100 hectares of Pinot Bianco. I see a question is 50%, not 15. And another thing, another important thing for the Satèn is the aging, I want to say. Because the minimum aging of the Satèn is 24 months. The minimum aging for the standard brut is 18 months. Why longer aging? Longer aging permits to have the bubble more creamier, more softer, and the wine gets more smooth. Why that? It's a chemical thing that happens not only for the Chardonnay but for the Franciacorta in general. When the aging is longer, we have the bubble which is thinner, because when the lees dies after the second fermentation, it starts to melt, and the melting, the cell walls start to melt, and giving to the wine many compounds, and one of them is manoproteins. Manoproteins is like a tensioactive, like soap more or less, and that make a bubble thinner, smaller, and the wine creamier.
Okay, that's actually really interesting. So so the aging requirement for Satèn is, you mentioned 24 months, which is longer than for the brut category, and that additional aging is also part of what is giving the wine that texture, this sort of silky, creamy texture, because of the chemical experiences that are actually happening inside the bottle. Very interesting. Thank you. So is it common for the wines to be aged in oak at all? Because we're using a lot of Chardonnay here. Is there oak aging for Satèn in general, or not?
Yeah,
really?
we have to consider that I think many wineries use a little percentage of wine aged in oak for the Satèn, because oak aging gives more creaminess, more fruitness, and which is very good to enhance the flavor of the Satèn. Another thing I think is very common for the Satèn is the use of malolactic fermentation for many wineries.
Oh, okay. Okay, so again, for the same purpose. So malolactic fermentation which is the conversion.
Which permit to have a lower and less impact acidity.
Right. Okay. I love it. So the whole goal is really to sort of, again, to create this more gentle texture in the wine, so that could be enhanced through some oak aging, through some malolactic conversion, through the lower pressure in the bottle. Okay. So it really is a very distinct style. So I'm going to go back to you. Thank you, Gregorio. I'm going to go back to you, Camilla, for a question about, you know, as wineries, you're all making, you know, different typologies, Dosage Zero, which we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Rosé. But when you're looking for your Satèn, what are you looking for in terms of characteristics of the wine? How are you making your selection of what wine is going to be your Satèn?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that Franciacorta is a very small region, but it is very different from one part to another. So according to where you pick up the grapes, you're going to have a different kind of fruit, and the result in the glass will be different. So as a producer, I think there is a technical point of view, but also a philosophical point of view, especially in the Satèn, because we know that we have to use Chardonnay, Pinot Blanc, we have to use a lower pressure, but then every winemaker, especially in Satèn, has his or her own idea about how the Satèn should be. How can I get this smoothness in the glass without adding more sugar, of course? And so according to where you have the vineyards, you have to decide. And for example, in my winery, I'm in the coldest part of Franciacorta, at the northeast side of Franciacorta, where the soil is very rocky, it's a stone. And so actually I usually use the grapes from the last vineyard I harvest, in order to get the ripeness be long and have a little bit more mature grapes. But that is just my way of making the Satèn. I do not use wood because I'm still not well in a good relationship with the wood, and now maybe it is too strong or too low. And what I have to give to my customer is really the emphasis of the Chardonnay, with a very delicate balance of the bubbles. So the bubbles are not the bubbles that you see in the glass, but what you feel in the mouth. And this is especially using the best grapes of the good vintage. It's time. In Franciacorta, another very important ingredient is time. We need a lot of time. Gregorio said that we have to leave the bottles on the lees for minimum 24 months, but I can assure you that most of us leave the bottles on the lees for more than 3 years. And wow. It's a long way to the top. You want to make a good Satèn.
Excellent, great, thank you. And what about La Montina, Gianluca? What is the what are the choices that are being made there for the Satèn? So Camilla said no oak, and they're pretty cold area. What about your vineyards?
No, trying to summarize to one word, I guess that when we are thinking about our Satèn, we are thinking about elegance. So to get this elegance, as Camilla was saying, we can play in different ways. One of the most important is the choice about the vineyard of Chardonnay, because our Satèn is made with 100% Chardonnay. We would like to pick up the ripeness, the positioning, the terroir, and everything, because in Franciacorta, really, we have a lot of differences, even if a few kilometers. So that's important. Then we like to play a little bit with food as well. So we partially age about 40% of our Chardonnay in French barrique. And we then blend this barrel fermented Chardonnay with the stain still fermented. And that's another way to get this elegance. And the third way is the aging in a bottle, because I guess, as Camilla was suggesting, everyone is going over the mandatory 24 months to get this elegance, this smoothness, and this very soft and shiny wine we want to get when we are presenting a Satèn.
Right. Thank you. And what about you guys, Gregorio? What are you doing at Santa Lucia?
We look for creaminess and elegance, as Gianluca said, and so we usually start from the vineyards, and we have a couple of vineyards which we know that are more Satèn oriented, and it's a couple of vineyards in Erbusco, and so we usually choose that grapes for our Satèn.
Would it be the one behind me? Is that one of the Satèn ones?
No, that's the one for the Riserva.
Ah, so apparently my backdrop is one of Gregorio's vineyards. So I was hoping I was a Satèn vineyard, but that's okay. That's for the Riserva. Okay, great. Thank you. So now that we've been talking about the wines, what's your favorite food to have with your Satèn, Gregorio?
I like Satèn with aperitifs in general. But I love to have Satèn also with fried food. Fried food, I think, is the best pairing.
Yeah, sounds good. And what about you, Gianluca?
So my favorite pairing, it's about thinking also pretty well-known food in the US. It's fish and chips. Let me say that you can see my background is about Lake Iseo. So if you happen to be here, you can enjoy beautiful small fish from the lake fried with some vegetables. But I guess that can work very well with fish and chips. It's perfect.
Sounds great. And Camilla, what's your favorite food pairing with your Satèn?
I would drink Satèn with any kind of food, but right now, maybe because we are almost in summertime, I would love Satèn with and linguine with the seafood because tomato sauce and mussel seafood are perfect with Satèn.
Lovely. Well, this always gets me very thirsty and very hungry when we have these conversations. But yeah, I'm of the philosophy that there is no wrong time or wrong pairing for Satèn because I'm a fan. So I'm going to close it with my last question to you, Gianluca, about Satèn in general. What percentage of overall production is Satèn today, and do you think it's likely to increase in the future?
Yes, so about our last available data given by the consortium, we are about 10% of the overall Franciacorta production. Just to give you a range, the whole Franciacorta region is making about 17 million bottles. So it's a pretty small region with a very high quality because up to date, today, the Franciacorta rules are the most strict one in the world to make a sparkling wine. So 10% is the production about Satèn, and I guess that the trend is positive because Satèn is matching the taste, especially of the new drinkers generation. So talking about young people, and also talking about women's. So because it's characteristic, it's really matching this kind of taste, this kind of drinking style. So I guess the future is growing and positive for Satèn.
Okay, great, thank you. So I certainly hope so. And at this point, we would like to open it up to any Q&A that we may have. So I know Constance, you've been keeping your eye on some questions coming in. So our panel is yours. Would you like to pose some questions to them?
Great. Well, as a follow-up to that, Gianluca, maybe you can tell us how much Satèn is exported to the US and what the range of cost is?
So right now, probably Satèn is still a pretty unknown or new typology of Franciacorta for the US market. As I was saying, it's something that is growing too in general and in the US market as well. And the cost, I don't have a perfect idea talking about the shelf cost in the US, but it's one of the, because what we were saying about Satèn, the style of vinification, the time we need to make it, it's a little bit higher compared to a brut Franciacorta. Should be in the range about the $40 to $50 on the shelf.
Great. Okay, Camilla, do you think that herba mate will be allowed in Satèn at some point?
Well, herba mate is, of course, it is a challenge. It is a new vineyards that we are gonna try to use. But in my opinion, maybe it's still too sour. The ripeness is very long in the months. So maybe personally, I would use it for another kind of Franciacorta. I would focus on the Chardonnay to make the Satèn. Also because in my opinion, Satèn is the king or the queen of Chardonnay grapes in Franciacorta.
Great. Gregorio, is your father still involved in the winery and with the wines?
Yes, every day. No, obviously he's very present because the winery started with him, but in the last years he's getting tired and he's letting more me and my brother do things.
Great. And Gianluca, what are some of the biggest challenges you face in promoting Franciacorta abroad?
Oh, that's a good question. So going straight to the quality of the product, we shouldn't have any problem. But actually, Franciacorta is a pretty new region. It's a pretty new appellation. We are talking about the 1995 when the Franciacorta has been recognized as a DOCG, even if the region, actually, the land strictly, it's producing wine since the 13th century. But we are talking about Franciacorta to the world in a pretty short time. So our most tough challenge is to make Franciacorta known all around the world. So to talk about Franciacorta, talk about the land, and talk about these beautiful wines. It's just a matter of time. We will get straight to the point.
Great. Well, I think that's it for questions. So I'm going to go, but thanks, guys.
Thank you, Constance. I just wanted to just explain for some people who may not be familiar with the herba mate, the question that was posed to Camilla. Herba mate is a white grape variety that is indigenous to the region. It's a historic grape variety that has recently been reintroduced into the rule book of Franciacorta. And as of 2017, it's been permitted in some of the wines, but not yet for Satèn. And it is known for being a very high acid, late ripening grape variety. So as we heard today, a lot of the emphasis with Satèn is about creaminess and lusciousness and ripeness, and so herba mate perhaps would not be the best fit right now for this style of wine. So thank you so much for joining me, my panelists Gregorio, Gianluca, and Camilla.